While the rest of the world is tightening borders, building higher walls, adding more forms, and inventing new ways to say no, Africa is quietly doing something different. Africa is saying, come on in. Picture this: a Ghanaian designer flying to Kigali with no visa drama, a Somali entrepreneur landing in Nairobi and walking straight to immigration with just a passport, a Liberian student applying online and getting an entry approval without ever stepping into an embassy. For decades, the African story or trope was we're begging for visas to leave. Now a new story is emerging. Africa is rewriting the rules for who gets in and how. This is the Africa where visas disappear and opportunity moves. Let's check it out.
Will an Africa in which Africans are no longer required to obtain visas to travel within the continent boost prospects for intra-continental trade? The answer is yes. The move towards visa-free entry has several potential benefits. First, visa-free travel can boost economic growth. It makes it easier for businesses to operate across borders and for tourists to visit different countries. Recently, Rwanda and Kenya announced visa-free travel for all Africans, joining Benin, the Gambia, and Seychelles, which are the most open to fellow Africans with no visa requirements for any African country. According to the Africa Visa Openness Report, Rwanda, which abolished work permits for East African community citizens, has increased its trade with Kenya and Uganda by at least 50%. However, obstacles to visa-free travel remain present in other countries. The biggest issue is the high cost of visas. The average cost of visas across Africa is $63 US, with the lowest being $12 US and the highest being $250 US for countries such as Burkina Faso. Time and money spent on visa processes, poor flight connections, and incorrect perceptions of other African countries also contribute to the problem. In 2016, the African Union launched its African Passport. The AU passport was supposed to make it easier for all African citizens to be able to travel throughout the continent without visas, but it is still widely not available. This is in part because of concerns about security, smuggling, and the impact on the local employment market. The Visa Openness Index report recommends lowering fees, making visa on arrival the standard for African visitors, and implementing a secure e-visa system as a means of helping make visa-free travel within Africa a reality instead of just an idea.
All right, guys, so let's set the stage here. On paper, Africa is still, we'll say, complicated, right? Only about 28% of all possible African country-to-country trips are fully visa-free. And then almost half of the travel routes, Africans still need a visa before they even move, so ETA or electronic travel authorizations. But underneath that headline, something huge is shifting, right? So Rwanda stepped out first, announcing the full visa entry for all Africans and waiving visa fees and advanced applications for African citizens. Then Kenya followed with the plot twist as well. First, it scrapped the traditional visas in 2024 and moved to a universal electronic travel authorization. Then in 2025, it went further and dropped visa and ETA requirements for all African nationals, offering true visa-free entry for up to 60 to 90 days, depending on the region. So ECOWAS in West Africa has long allowed citizens to move freely across 15 countries with just an ID or passport. EAC in East Africa runs a regional free movement protocol, and SADC in Southern Africa is quietly almost visa-free within the bloc as well. So now Liberia has joined the modernization wave, launching a fully digital e-visa on arrival program in 2025 so travelers can apply online and pick up the visa at Monrovia Airport. So meanwhile, the African Union and the African Developmental Bank are pushing hard for a truly visa-free continent as part of the Agenda 2063, trying to move towards free movement for trade. For the AFTA and the Regional Integration Program. So no, Africa is not fully open yet, but the direction of travel and the doors are unlocking. So let's decode the narrative, right? What do people assume? They assume that African borders are closed, confusing, and impossible, even for Africans, right? It's easier to fly to Europe than to the next African country. So you felt that before, right? Needing a visa just to go to the country next door, your neighbor, paying more in paperwork than plane tickets. Uh, but the truth is, the continent is moving slowly, unevenly, but undeniably toward freer intra Africa travel. So in 2016, only 1 in 5 African country pairs were visa free. By 2024, that was up to 28%, and visa on arrival options also climbed. So countries like Rwanda, Benin, Seychelles, the Gambia, and Kenya now consistently rank as some of the most visa open states on the continent. It's not perfect, but the curve is bending in our favor. So this isn't about tourism, it's about who gets to participate in African opportunity. Because when you open doors, you're not just letting in tourists, you're letting in students, traders, artists, researchers, healthcare workers, tech founders, to connect, collaborate, and build. So borders are political, but the movement is human. And Africa is finally treating movement like a right and not a luxury. So, what does this mean in real life? Tourism money stays in Africa. So, when an African traveler can fly Lagos to Gali to Accra, Nairobi without visa stress, they're more likely to vacation in Africa, spend African money in African hotels, book African airlines, support African tour operators. We keep the billions that used to go to Dubai, London, and Paris and reinvest it into Zanzibar, Cape Town, Mombasa, Kigali, Accra, Dakar, and the likes. So intra-Africa travel gets a booster, right? So freer, easier movement lets traders cross borders more easily, attend expos and markets, move goods with fewer delays, and negotiate contracts face to face. So the AFTA network can't work if Africans can't physically move. Visa reforms are literally greasing the wheels of regional trade. And skills start circulating, not just escaping when visas ease up. So Somali doctors can work in Uganda, Kenyan engineers can join projects in Ethiopia, Ghanaian creatives can open studios in South Africa, Rwanda data scientists can consult across the region. There's no more brain drain. That's brain circulation. So startup and tech ecosystems go pan-African in this case. Founders are now company hopping across borders, launching in Lagos, scaling in Nairobi, incorporating in Kigali, pitching in Cape Town. Easier entry means more hackathons, more summits and collaborations without the email trauma of your visa has been denied, right? So African founders used to pitch to embassies more than investors. Now they pitch. Now the pitch deck goes to VCs, not visa officers, right? So diaspora return becomes simpler as entry rules ease. More Africans abroad choose African destinations for holidays. More experiment with remote work from the continent. So more consider dual-based lifestyle, 6 months abroad, 6 months at home, because the less paperwork there is between you and home, the more often you'll come back. So let's zoom out, right? Where is this heading? So the AU e-passport and the free movement protocol, right? Even though only a handful of countries have ratified the free movement protocol so far, the AU and AFDB are turning up the pressure, right? So trying free movement to develop funds and integration goals. And it might move slower than we want, but once the AU e-passport becomes standard on African identity card, could unlock 54 borders, regional mini Schengen zones, right? So we're already seeing it in ECOWAS in West Africa, EAC in East Africa, and SADC in Southern Africa. As these blocks deepen the movement, you'll have regional super zones where Africans almost move like EU citizens do in Europe. And but this will have smarter borders, not harder borders, right? So visa-free doesn't mean security-free. Africa is also leaning into e-visas, biometric gates, digital pre-clearances, AI-driven risk screening. So Liberia's new e-visa on arrival is a perfect example. Fewer embassy visits, more data-driven border control. So Africa is a global magnet as Western countries tighten visas. Africa's openness could become a competitive advantage, right? So digital nomads choosing Mauritius, Rwanda, Kenya, South Africa, researchers coming to African universities, creatives and filmmakers basing themselves in Accra, Lagos, or Nairobi. This story flips from Africa trying to get in to the world trying to get in, right? And not just to steal the resources this time. So at the end of the day, this isn't just a visa story, it's a vision story. Africa is asking, a different question from the rest of the world. What is the way to build stronger nations? And it isn't locking people out, but to let people move. So Rwanda didn't wait for permission, they took the initiative. Kenya didn't wait for a UN conference. Liberia didn't wait for a perfect system. They started opening the door step by step, policy by policy, passport by passport. And movement is not a luxury. Movement is how families reconnect, how businesses grow, how cultures mix, and how ideas spread. And in this moment in history, when so many are building walls, Africa is quietly learning how to build bridges. So mashallah, that's your African Insight for today. Please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe because at Mr. Empower TV, we don't chase headlines, we chase the truth behind them. This is Mr. Empower, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace.